Welcome to Go Solo Live.
Don't you mean go solo live? Have you ever been asked, why on earth would you travel alone? Go Solo Live not only answers that question, but celebrates life as a midlife solo traveler. This is a safe place for women to come together to reminisce about their travels, encourage others to travel, and to dig into the real lessons learned from these journeys. Now join Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel as she and her guests share stories of the solo travelers of midlife women.
Welcome to Go Solo Live. This is Jennifer with Transform Via Travel. We are in our special season of our podcast, and now I'd like to introduce Dr. Mary Travelbest.
Welcome to Dr. Mary Travelbest's Bucket List Travel. We share the travel tips and guide you to your next destination. I'm Dr. Mary Travelbest, and welcome to this edition of my independent travel guide. This is for women who travel, who want to travel, and especially for those who want to travel independently. Are you a woman? Do you travel? What's on your bucket list? Please share that with me. You can tell me via the social media or blog or any way you like. I'm all ears. I'm going to talk about your FAQs, your frequently asked questions, your special travel questions, as well as share some of my mistakes and missteps in travel, because I've made just about every mistake, so you don't have to. I wrote the world's first guide to independent travel in 1993, and since then, I've been running a business, raising 4 children with my husband, and been a professor at several universities, all the time traveling. So my travel experiences are rich and meaningful, and I want to share them with other women like you. In this episode, we're going to talk about FAQs. We'll pick an independent destination, talk about mistakes, and give you some travel advice before we close. So let's start out with the FAQ. I'm ready to travel, but want to know about going on a trip to New Zealand. What kinds of things can I expect to find there? Well, thank you for asking. So I just met a really nice gentleman named Matisse, who's from New Zealand, and we had dinner together in March. And I asked him, what's new in New Zealand? Well, the thing that we talked about mostly was the bombing that happened in Christchurch. It was just happened this year, so very much on the mind of all local Kiwis, which is what they're called, who live there. He said it was a shocker because nothing like that had ever happened in New Zealand before. So if you're concerned about that, I really don't think it's something that's going to be repeated. I was there in 1982, so it's been a long time. But I have lots of friends who've been there since. And if you're going to be going to New Zealand, you're going to want to have at least 2 weeks to spend there. There's 2 islands, the North, obviously, and the South Island. And on the North Island is the town of Auckland, the city, I should say. It's the capital. It's the main hub. It's the metropolis. The South Island is bigger and has more of a Norway feel to it. You will find fjords at the very southern tip of New Zealand. And one of my favorite towns is Queenstown. So if you have a chance to get down there. One of the fun things that we did when I was there was we went to the Franz Joseph Glacier, and we started out on regular ground on a plane, and we landed that plane on the glacier and walked around, and then flew back down a little bit later on in the day. So that was really quite an adventure. There are more sheep than there are people. You might have heard that. And of course, they speak English, so you shouldn't have trouble with the language. And sheep are still very plentiful. So you will have a lot of nature around you. It's a farming community for many people still. One of the things that I most remember is going to Rotorua, and that's where it has that sulfur smell, kind of like smelly eggs. But I really recommend that you see some Kiwis and get to experience what life is like in New Zealand, because it's a worthwhile destination. And they are very, very friendly towards Americans. They remember that America was one of their protectors in World War II. And so Americans are very welcome in New Zealand. My first night there, I spent with a granny in her spare room. And she brought out the photo albums to show me all of the World War II pictures. And so some really strong memories about what a wonderful and warm people they are in New Zealand. So today we're going to talk about independent destinations, and another one after New Zealand that I think is worthwhile to see a little closer to home is Tijuana, Mexico. So Tijuana, Mexico is less than 20 miles from San Diego to the border. And it could be a very, very culturally defining moment for you. You can get to San Diego certainly from any domestic airline and then just travel 20 miles south via a car, or you can also go in a trolley through the right to the border, and then you can walk across. You do need to have a passport to get back in. So that is definitely something you want to bring with you, no matter what your age. In Tijuana, there is a big street right in the main area when you cross over called Revolucion. And there are lots of vendors there trying to sell you the latest Elvis posters and things like tchotchkes and some things that you may or may not need. But if you go into Revolution and go to find a restaurant, you might just enjoy a really nice meal. I'm not going to make any specific recommendations here because the restaurants do change. So I think if you use your senses, you'll be able to walk to one that you feel comfortable going in. Pretty much all the shops have the same things. You can negotiate, you can bargain, you can feel pretty safe down there walking around, especially in the daytime. I wouldn't feel uncomfortable at all being down in Tijuana, Mexico. If you do see trouble, just stay away. And, they want tourism. They need tourism. Their economy depends on it. Yes, there are several people coming up from Honduras to the United States. They have a kind of a sanctuary in Tijuana, but I don't believe it's anywhere near the border. So if you have a chance to get down to Tijuana, do give yourself time to experience the flavors, the colors. You can walk across. You don't have to take a taxi. But if you do choose to, you can get a taxi and then ask them to drop you off at a shopping mall or at maybe the main roads, and the taxi drivers would be happy to do that. Now, if you're driving in Mexico, if you have a rental car, make sure that you have the proper insurance. You can get insurance the day before online. It depends on the car that you have. It cost me something like $25 a day to insure my car. You definitely want to get that before you go down to Mexico. And the driving is a little bit dangerous because there's a lot of cars down there that are driving around. And if it was my first time down there, I would not bring a car. But after you've been there a few times, and then once you feel comfortable, you can go further into the Baja. Lots of things to do in Tijuana. And then when you get ready to explore further, you can go down to Rosarita, which is the next large city down, or you can go to Ensenada. These are all in the Baja. Or if you prefer, you can go down to the Valley de Guadalupe, which is just about a 3-hour trip from the border. And that is where wineries, similar to quality of Napa in Sonoma in California. So that's our independent destination, Mexico. And I also want to give you my mistake or misstep in Mexico. My first trip with my family, this was in 1977. So it wasn't my first trip to Mexico, but a first one with my family. On the way home, we were almost across the border and I saw a vending machine. And if you can guess what's going to happen next, I drank a can of juice from the vending machine. I thought, this is going to be fine. Well, it wasn't. The next 3 days, I was just so sick. So really be careful. Don't drink the water. Don't drink a can of juice from a vending machine like I did. Okay? So the advice that Dr. Travel Best has for you, now you're an independent traveler. You want to go places. You want to do things. I want to help you to build your confidence in that. And one of the things that I'm going to suggest to you is to go visit your ancestors' home. So wherever you are from, go back and take a look at it. See where you came from and see maybe what you'd be doing if your ancestors had not left. Hey, we're all from somewhere, right? So I want to bring meaning to your travel. I want you to feel confident and be able to explore new places, whether it's your ancestors' home, whether it's in Mexico, whether it's New Zealand, or wherever in the world you want to travel. Thank you for listening to this edition of the world's first guide to independent travel. with Dr. Mary Travel Best. If you want to know more, just search for me. And sure enough, you'll find me on the web, social media, and in this podcast. So thank you so much.